Hello, everybody. All right, looks like that sounds okay there. So, I hope everybody's having a good week thus far. Just waiting for more people to come in. Gonna go off camera for a quick moment while I do something real quick. But as we're waiting for more people, I'll put some music on to entertain you guys until I come back here. Let's see. So I'll be right back. Right, back. As always, if you guys can help me out by liking and sharing the stream, seeing if we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, to feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions best of my ability. So, well, we're still at the rising half of the week here. We're on the Tuesday here. Um, So we'll, as I said, we'll give it a couple more minutes here before we get started. Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. Find adventure that's beyond compare. They are the gummy bears. They are the gummy bears. Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales. Woo. I've been making DuckTales. Woo. Wow, it looks like we have 3 people in here. Hello. How y'all doing tonight? Let's see. As I said, if you can help me out by liking, sharing the stream, and seeing if we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Also, anything we talk about grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Now, so tonight we're actually only gonna, I think we're only gonna go over one article, but I think it will be an article that will take up the majority of the time, as it were. So it's going to be from Bleeding Fool writer Avi Green, who apparently did an interview with Mad Magazine cartoonist Al Jaffe back in 2008. They've decided to publish the extended version of the interview today, as Jaffe had recently celebrated his 102nd birthday. Jaffe, of course, would have a feature in Mad Magazine across 6 decades, from 1964 to 2019. Of course, it truly adds up to 55 years, but 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, those 6 decades right there. With that, they kind of stepped away, I guess. But we're getting pretty close to 5 minutes here, since I now just went through the um, and I thank you for the like and the share. That hopefully will get some more people in here. With that, let's go ahead and get started here. Then let me just go ahead and get this put up here. There's the article. And of course, don't forget, of course, we'll also have the wrestling wrap up and the This Day in Each History segment a little later on as well. So, with that, why don't we go ahead and get going here? Hopefully, we'll get some more people. And as I said, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will see what happens from there. So, anyways, appreciating Mad Magazine's Al Jaffe at 102 years old. Article by Avi Green, um, published today. Why manga? Alrighty then. So let's get started here. I guess here are some of the in the background there. There are some of the and that's Al Jaffe right there. I don't know if that's a current picture or a picture from back in 2008 because I don't know if there'd be much of a difference considering he was, I think he was 87 when would have been 87 then I believe in I'm sorry, was it 2008 or 2009? They said 2008 interview. So that'd have been actually 15 years ago. So yeah, he would have been 87. 102 minus 15. That's 87. I would think that would be 87. Let's see. 1921. Yeah. All right. So okay. Anyway, so New York's Vulture section recently published a 2008 interview with Al Jaffe, famous for his satirical illustrations in the now defunct Mad magazine, about his past career in parody, including the famous fold-in illustrations from the inner back covers of the monthly installments. Originally intended as a one-time parody of Playboy's foldouts, Jaffe's recurring feature, which appeared in Mad from 1964 until its demise in 2019, so it's like 55 years, but that's still across 6 decades, as we were pointing out there, became almost as recognized and imitated as Alfred E. Newman's gap-toothed grin. Located on the magazine's inside back cover, um, it featured a drawing that, when folded vertically and inward, revealed a hidden picture and a surprise joke. But what made the quote unquote fold in so brilliant wasn't merely the concept, deceptively simple and seemingly innocuous. It was a cachet of subversive satire. Oh, maybe was their way of trying to get around the whole Comics Code Authority. Maybe is that where they're possibly going with that idea? Is that what they were hinting at there, and how they said that? Anyways, see if anybody's on the course. We're down to. Judging from some of the references over the years, Jaffe had always trusted the intelligence of his audience, even when they were no more than pre or just pubescent kids looking for a quick laugh before bedtime or during math class. Huh. How else to explain the very adult punchlines like soaring profits in medical prescriptions? Okay. Or hiding the homeless problem, or the gag in which an American bald eagle transforms into another, perhaps even more popular cultural icon, the Big Mac. Okay. Um, it was one of the cleverest features they ever thought of, and he was right to trust in people's intellects to understand the concept. Today's PC indoctrinated crowd unfortunately wouldn't. Today, Jaffe turns 102, and to commemorate, I'm publishing for the first time online an extended version of the interview that I conducted with him back in 2008. Um, Now, I don't know if this is Avi Green who did this, or if it was another writer who actually did the interview, but Avi Green is the writer of this particular article for Bleeding Fool here. Before it was cut down for inclusion in my book. Jaffe is a link to another time, another world, when humor magazine writers and illustrators were stars and sometimes even household names. Now, granted, we know of another guy who made a name for himself with a character for the newspapers. Scott Adams, who of course is the Dilbert. We know some of the recent stuff he's been going through lately. So, of course, I don't. From what I understand, he got in trouble more for views he expressed that were his own personal views, as opposed to what he actually presented in his work. So, more importantly, Al is a genius and a mensch, and deserves to be honored on this most celebratory of days. 102 years old. Wow. Still alive and kicking. You would think that a lot of the PC SJW baloney would probably cause him to keel over or something like that, but I guess he's just taking it in stride, I guess. Definitely, I don't know that many artists and writers from the past century who reached over 100. So Jaffe's lucky he got that far. Here's some of the details of how he'd worked in comics before turning to Mad more officially. Yeah, so okay, if he was born in March of 21, that's what I'm guessing here. So 64. So he started working for Mad when he was like 43 years old. You think about it. So, what was your first comic book sale? How old were you? I was 20, so I would have been 1941 probably, at the dawn of World War, or America's involvement in World War II. I went to see Will Eisner, who is the creator of a comic strip called The Spirit. And we've, of course, talked about him on the historical comic, seen some of his pre-Spirit work, but also I know a few, like RJ Carter in particular, has mentioned, Eisner's work on The Spirit, um, which was beautifully drawn and very creative. The opening splash pages were all so brilliantly conceived. In the comics field, we all admired this strip tremendously. Will was a genius. He just did beautiful work. I had created a parody of Superman called Inferior Man. Um, that's kind of funny too, because I think DC ran with that too, as part of their Inferior 5 comic stories. Um, and I wanted to show it to Will. It seemed so naive now, but it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Was this the first parody of Superman? This would have been what the early 40s Superman had only been around a few years at that point. So, yeah, basically early 40s, 4 or 5 years or so. I guess 3 years because it was 1941. At that time, there was another character who was called Stuperman. Um, it was published by DC Comics. I don't know if mine was the first Superman takeoff, but it really doesn't matter. I came up with mine independently. Since then, I've seen a million takeoffs, but at that time, there weren't many. When I brought the idea to Will, I had no idea whether I was doing something stupid or not. But Will, who was only a few years older than I was already very successful. He hired me on the spot to do, quote, inferior man, unquote, as a filler for his comic books. Of course, for some of you who may not know, of course, Will Eisner and Samuel Maxwell Iger, XM Iger, would 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 actually be contracted to provide material for a number of different companies, including, of course, Centaur um, and Quality, among many others. Let's see, I think also Fox Feature Syndicate got into the act with that too. I vaguely remember Mad used Superman for a parody of the Lois and Clark TV series from 1993 to 1997, starring Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher. They probably used it earlier too. I have no idea if Jaffe is misremembering, but I do appreciate what he's got to say about Eisner, because I'm convinced very few modern leftist creators would be willing to say the same based on his quasi conservative politics. Are they talking about Eisner having quasi conservative politics, or what? I mean, I'm just kind of curious myself, obviously. Let me take a quick peek here. Just trying to see here. Maybe they did talk about his stuff here. No, I guess not. I guess he would express those views through his book, through his work, I guess. But anyways, to have made a major sale at the age of 20 must have been very exciting, not to mention a real boost to your career. Mhm. It was certainly, but whenever I read news reports or stories about that time or I hear people talking about it, one element that's usually left out is the realistic atmosphere. Our families had either just come out of the Depression or were still in the Depression. No one opened the gate and said, quote unquote, depression over. You had a lot of baggage, and some of that was trying to figure out how to become self sustaining and not have to rely on your parents. So, with the comic book field, the buzz was, quote, there's work, unquote. You can get so much money per page, and you have to do it, and all you have to do is write and draw cartoons. I was making 3 times as much as my father was making as a postal. Wow, 3 times as much. So if his dad was making, let's say, $20 a week, what was that thing again? 3 times. He was probably making $60 a week. You were working only on, your Inferior Man comics. No, I was. Okay, that's a question. Now here's Jaffe's answer. No, I was also making some extra money doing some penciling for a cartoonist who worked for Timely Comics. Hmm. Let's see. Which later became Marvel Comics. After a while, though, I realized that I was being exploited. I was being paid $8 a week. All right, so that'd be $32 a month. So his dad must have been making $10 a month, or $10 or $11 a month. You know, um, so I became disillusioned and skipped the middleman and went to work directly for Timely Comics. Stan Lee, later the creator of Spider-Man, had just become the editor at Timely. He was about 17 years old, maybe 18, and I went to see him at his office. Wow, this guy's had some pretty interesting contacts in his life. Stan Lee, Will Eisner. Wow. Um, he looked at a few of my samples, then handed me a script called Squat Car Squad, and said, "quote Let's see what you can do with that. Go illustrate it." Unquote. When I brought it back, he said, "quote I don't have any more scripts for you to illustrate, but why don't you keep writing and drawing this one?" Unquote. So I did a lot of Squat Car Squad, which was a simple comic about 2 policemen. Um, but I had a great time with it. Yeah, there were a few like that back in those days. I mean, you could argue Blue Beetle interactions that Dan Garrett and Mike Manigan would have. Even prior, that Siegel and Schuster had actually had a kind of a cop duo radio squad. That was like Sandy Keene and Larry Trent. So those kind of comics were very big back there at the beginning of the comic industry as well. Did you work on any other characters at Timely? After the war, I wrote and illustrated a teen character named Patsy Walker. I've seen that name before myself. Patsy Walker. I've seen, basically there were a number of titles with her name on it. Um, I've seen them when, of course, doing the This Day in Each History segments. I did this for about 5 years. I didn't create this character. A woman by the name of Ruth Atkinson did, but I worked on it. The American public goes through cycles, and the cycle at that time was teenage humor. Yeah. Of course, some other teenage humor comics that were popular. Squibbly, which actually started a lot earlier, but Squibbly was still very popular in the late 40s, early 50s. Of course, the Riverdale gang, Archie and his friends were popular at the time. To name at least a couple others that we talk a lot about. Let's see. Let's see. The idealized version of that carefree teen life wasn't the sort of lifestyle you and the other comic artists were leading, I take it. And then Jaffe's response to this was, "That's absolutely correct. We are coming out of an economic depression and then war. Many of us were starting to get married and have families. So things were changing, but we were living fantasy lives through our work. We were creating these worlds in the comics that we wish our childhoods could have been." Very interesting perspective there. That's a very interesting perspective. Um, and here's some more. And a sharp difference from today is that they were doing it foremost for the entertainment value. In other words, they weren't doing it trying to preach at people. And in real life, unlike today, you had a lot more respect for marriage between men and women, husband and wife, along with childbearing. Mm-hmm. Also notice Jaffe took the time to remind everyone that a woman was behind the creation of Patsy Walker in her original incarnations. And it's impressive he was able to meet Lee early in his career and get a job from him. Yeah, that is pretty impressive. As for humor, unfortunately, there's something that's becoming lost upon modern PC generations who care more about the horror genre than the humor genre, which they regrettably now consider little more than an offense. Jaffe also told the following in the original interview about fellow cartoonist Dave Berg. Let's see. Oops. All right. Well, anyways, getting back to the. Oh, we got. Oh, hey, Rick. Just trying to get your attention there. Going over a very interesting article here about former Mad Magazine cartoonist Al Jaffe. He just turned 102, and they're looking back on his career. Had a pretty interesting career, to say the least. If you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream and see if we can get some more people in here. Also, feel free to comment or ask questions as we go through this, if anything happens to catch your attention. Anyways, getting back to this. Do you think Dave Berg's inner battle later expressed itself in his strip, quote, The Lighter Side of, unquote? Um, let's see, and then this was Al Jaffe, 102-year-old, still surviving American cartoonist, response to that question. It came out in a lot of things he did. He had a very moralistic personality. I mean, he moralized all the time. And his gags were very suburban, middle class America. Plus, he was very religious. He wrote a book called My Friend God. And of course, if you wrote a book like that, you just know that the mad stuff is going to make fun of you. We would ask him questions like, quote, Dave, when did you and God become such good friends? Did you go to college together? Or what? uh, there he is right there. There's another picture of him. I don't know if this is now this is an extended version of an interview that was done, I think, back in 2018. So bearing that in mind, of course. But anyways, getting back to the article here. It's quite a difference from modern times where many creators are totally secular and have no true respect for Judeo Christian or even Buddhism. Yet when Islam is the issue, that they won't slight. What are your thoughts on the future for comic book illustrators? For a humor writer, one would assume there will always be television or the movies, but illustrating for a comic book like Mad seems so specific a talent. Do you think it will survive? And then this was Mr. Jaffe's response here. I think there are going to be some drastic changes as far as commercial artists are concerned. Even as you were speaking, I was picturing getting up in the morning and a favorite comic strip is on panel and it rolls by and it's animated. No longer will it be quote unquote peanuts with four panels and static little figures. Um, Now it will feature characters walking or kicking a football right in front of you, all on a sheet of something that is no bigger than a page. Um, all of that is bound to come. Truthfully, I don't know what we're going to gain or what we're going to lose. Of course, you both gain and lose from the advance of knowledge and technology, but humor, I don't think any race of people can survive without it. That's quite a magnanimous thing to say. Hmm. There definitely have been all sorts of changes, and not for the better as far as humor is concerned. Um, if you consider how it's been dumbed down for the sake of perpetually offended SJWs, even Mad themselves may have finally succumbed to, in the end, to PC mentality, which precipitated its demise. There is only so much being lost to social justice propaganda nowadays, and while Jaffe's respect for animation as a medium is admirable, that too is becoming a lost art. Maybe even well before it could be considered a valid art form. Let's also remember that for many years, very few USA Canadian animators tried establishing a marketplace for adults, and in the recent decades, it's only considered useful for left wing political indoctrination. Oh, yeah, that's something for Mad Magazine right there. Huh. Jaffe did a lot of good for cartooning in his time as a satirist. Um, and that's why it's sad there's unlikely to be many in the future who will appreciate his contributions. Hmm. Yeah, so this article we went through did take a good chunk of time here, not as much as I'd hoped though. I was hoping it could have taken us interviews. Usually, when I read over interviews, they do take they do take quite a bit of time here. So they usually do take quite a bit of time. So why I sometimes like doing them if I need something to report on. But with that, let me just go back here. Anything else? Maybe I came into Bleeding Full. Let me just check that real quick. And if there is, we might hit it up. Let's see. Nothing there. Nothing there. See about Bounty in the comics. Actually, it looks like there's a couple. Huh, huh. Actually, there's a couple of anime articles that just came up here. Probably hit those up, I guess. Um, and on these two just came in probably after I'd already decided what I'd report on. As we're still at the 40-minute mark, so we still got plenty of time here. So I think I'll hit these up as well on the anime side of things. At the risk of not again not having any report on tomorrow. Um, all right, so Shueisha officially greenlights anime adaptation for comedy harem series, The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. Let's see. Comedy harem series, The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. Five reallys. Wow, that sounds like a very interesting. Sounds like a very interesting anime to watch. Sounds like a very interesting manga to read. Anyways, there are now officially 101 reasons to love the Rentaro family. Oh, by the way, article was written by Nerdigans Inc., published earlier today. So, as Shueisha has announced the weekly Young Jumps comedy harem series, The 100 Girlfriends, who really, 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 really love you, or The 100 Girlfriends for short, is one of their next series to make the jump from print to the small screen. Written by Rikito Nakamura and illustrated by Yukiko Nozawa, A Hundred Girlfriends follows the life of Rentaro Aijo, who is voiced in Japanese by Wataru Kato, who provides the voice of Toka Scott in The Legendary Hero Is Dead. A young man who, by the end of his middle school years, has confessed to and been rejected by exactly 100 girls. Oh man, the dude. Oh man, the dude is so. Oh, he's so persistent, but yet that's not a very good. That's not a very good thing to have happen, I guess. Anyways, tired of constantly coming up short in the game of love, Rentaro visits a matchmaking shrine after his 100th rejection and prays to the god of love to help finding a girlfriend in his coming high school years. Much to his surprise, the prayer actually catches the direct attention of the god of love, who in turn appears before Rentaro to reveal that due to a clerical error, he is not destined to have one soulmate, but rather 100. Oh, lucky day. You're having trouble getting one girlfriend. You're told that you're actually destined to have 100. Oh, my goodness. Oh, guys, don't we all wish we were that lucky? Hey. Hey, 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 hey. Ah. Ah. However, having 100 soulmates, unsurprisingly, comes with a price, as, according to the god, those who have met their soulmates but don't end up with them are destined to die as a result of a tragic accident. Yeah, there's always a catch, isn't there? Always a catch. Not wanting any of the women to die, Rentaro takes it upon himself to date every single one of his 100 soulmates with hilarious results. Oh, yeah. No kidding. I've heard. Yeah, this is not a harem manga anime. It's a super harem manga anime. Talking about taking the harem genre to the nth degree. Oh boy, what fun! In true jump comedy fashion, in addition to the comedy derived from Rentaro's new challenge, the series also brings the laughs by poking fun at the brand's other series, including Demon Slayer, Dragon Ball, and One Piece. The series even features some fun chapters wherein Rentaro himself meets and works with Nozawa, the series artist herself. Oh wow! Talk about breaking the fourth wall. That's kind of akin to Jiminy Cricket talking to Walt Disney, right? You guys remember that? Remember those scenes? Which it seemed like Jiminy Cricket would quite literally leap off the page, and he'd be kind of right there, down there trying to talk to um, Walt Disney. Hmm. On March 13th, Shueisha officially confirmed 100 Girlfriends anime adaptation with a debut trailer featuring a montage of various manga panels taken from across Rentaro's romantic journey. Wow, that's got to be quite a gonna need a lot of money for that. Yeah, no kidding. I would say so, Rick. Right? Need to be a billionaire. Well, unless you just happen to find that all 100 of those girlfriends don't mind, humble means. Anyways, as a reminder, if you guys haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, so we can get some more friendly people on here, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So with that, let's continue on here with the article. Following the announcement, both series creators, Nakamura and Nozawa, took to social media to express their excitement and gratitude towards the new project. Quote, "Thank you so much for all your support," unquote, tweeted Nakamura via DeepL. Quote, "I will step on the accelerator more in the future for the original manga to keep up with the anime," unquote. Yeah, they usually like to have the manga ahead of the anime by a bit in order to, or else what ends up happening, of course, is you get like you did with the first Naruto series, with the first Full Metal Alchemist series, even to maybe a slightly lesser degree, even with Hunter x Hunter, where you have filler arcs thrown in there. I think it happened with Dragon Ball too. Putting her own talents to use, Nozawa commemorated the announcement by unveiling a new illustration depicting Rentaro and his current family of 23 girlfriends. Hey, Rick, let me ask you, what do you think you would do if you had, if you were living with, 23 women, they were all your girlfriends, or even to take it even further, 100 girlfriends who were, 100 women who were your girlfriends? Quote, "Congratulations on the anime adaptation," unquote. She cheered, quote, "I'm looking forward to the broadcast," unquote. At current, the 100 girlfriends who really, 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 really love you is set to air sometime later this year. That one sounds like it's going to be quite a anime, to say the least. Harem animes, though, are always fun to watch. Watch and be a part of. Anyways, we'll do one more article here, and then actually, before I do that, of course, I do need to step away for a moment. I'll be right back. Wait, we need a really, really, really. Oh wait, we need a really, 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 really big place. Yeah, you're probably right, Rich. I actually need to go back and check something. I'm sorry, guys. I'll be right back. Just gotta go check something. Gotta go check something real quick. Be right back. Yeah, my sister just came home, so I just had to make sure. Anyways, yeah, you're right, Rick. You would probably need a very big place to have to deal with all that. So, anyways, let's get to this other article. It'll probably be the last article we'll read tonight. As we're at 54 minutes, coming up on 55 minutes now, I believe. Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. So probably be getting ready. Probably after that, we'll probably come on to the wrestling wrap up, and then start to wind things down a bit. Anyways, so Shaman King Flowers sequel series officially announces anime adaptation. Article by Nerdigans published earlier tonight in the anime section. So, though Yo Asakura's story may have ended nearly 20 years ago, his son Hana, by the way, is the Japanese word for flower, I believe, is just beginning as Hiroyuki Takei's Shaman King Flowers has officially announced its plans to bloom onto the small screen. Look at that. Interesting. The flame looks more like Edward Elric from from Full Metal Alchemist, actually, but I digress. Taking place 16 years after his father won the eponymous title at the end of the original series, Shaman King Flowers centers on Yo and Anna Asakawa's delinquent son, Hana. And again, Hana, of course, is a Japanese word for flowers. Who was voiced in the Japanese by Yoko Ikasa, who does the voice of Arthur Penselgon in Shangri-La Frontier, and his inherited guardian spirit, Ami Damaru, who was voiced in the Japanese by Katsuyuki Konishi, who provided the voice of Tengen Uzui in Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer. Spending his days living an average life filled with skipping school and gang fights, like a lot of anime heroes we see, right? Reminds me, of course, of guys like Yusuke Urameshi. Trying to think. There's a couple of course, protagonists from both Midori Days and I can't even think of the other one now. But anyways, let's see. Hana's life is soon turned on its head when his newly met fiancée, Alumi Neum Birch, who is voiced in the Japanese by Sumire um, Uesaka, who provided the voice of Rana Himawari in Rokudo no Onatachi, reveals that Hana's name has been entered into the series Flower of Maize event. Flower of now that's maize, Maize, of course. That's usually the way they spell like maize. Maize is in corn. Flower of corn event, maybe. Occurring when 3 or more of the 8 individuals have historically earned the title Shaman King find themselves dissatisfied with the role's current representative. The event sees each former champion field their own team of select shamans in a winner-take-all battle for the right to remain in power. Unveiled to the series' newly launched website on March 15th, the first trailer for Shaman King Flowers not only confirms the adaptation's existence, but also teases viewers by introducing them to both Hana and Amidamaru. And we're just past the hour mark here, of course. Alongside the trailer, the series production studio, Bridge, released their official character design for Hana's Flower of Maize teammates. These include the aforementioned Alumi, who as Patch Tribe's 10 priest, inherited both his spirit and the Silver Arms, a unit of 5 guardian creatures whose spirits have been refined over half a millennia of time. There's a Lumi right there. Yohane Asakura, who is voiced in the Japanese by Shun Hiyori, who provided the voice of Kazuya Kinoshita in Rent a Girlfriend. The next head of the Asakura branch, who was exiled from the main family roughly 1,000 years ago. Asakura, who might be Hana's brother, I guess, or a cousin, or have you? The team's anti-Oni means demon, I believe, is another word for demon, I believe. Specialist and aspiring, quote, strongest man in the world, unquote, Ibuki Gecko, who is voiced in the Japanese by Michiko Kaiden, who provides the Japanese voice for Dono in Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Red and blue hair look kind of familiar. Um, and Towman, who is voiced by Romy Park. Of course, they point out it provides a voice Zoe Hange in Attack on Titan. Of course, Romy Park is most famous for providing the Japanese voice for Edward Elric in Full Metal Alchemist as well, who, despite being only 7 years old, is considered to be the team's strongest member thanks to his ability to wield his parents' own guardian ghost, Basan and Shamash. Of course, as a catch, he can only tap into their powers if he follows his parents' ironclad, in smaller quotes, no kill rule. As for the series debut trailer, Shaman King Flowers is currently set to premiere in January 2024. Alrighty then, so there we go with that one. So I believe that's all we have articles tonight, unless another one just happened to pop up. With that, we'll do a little freestyle talking for a few minutes here before starting to wrap things up, as we're just past the hour mark. Let's see. Any more? Nope, I guess not. So with that, oops, the wrong thing right there. Okay, there we go. So at least for the next few minutes here, I'll probably try to just so yeah, so the fifth Food Wars Shogeki no Soma, the fifth plate did debut. The English dub for that show did debut this past Saturday night, Sunday morning on Toonami. It was actually pretty good. You know, it's a pretty interesting anime. You guys might want to check out. Let me see now. What else can we talk about? Let's see. Let's see. What else is on my mind? Well, let's see. I know RJ had a couple of interesting shows the last couple of days. Today it was actually back to help to promote somebody's comic, but yesterday it was actually talking about an organization running a similar situation like Fund My Cause, just as another platform to try to get around, some of the shenanigans going on with like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, crowdfunder, and the rest of the lot. And I know some of you missed the show yesterday, but I did a follow up yesterday for another story about the Gabby, the AI art generator for Gab. It was some pretty fun stuff. Seeing how people can de-wokify, some of the stuff from de-wokify some of the stuff that Hollywood's been wokifying of late. And of course, it's funny because when I was telling RJ about it earlier, he said, "Yeah, that's what you do. If they start whining and complaining, you just press on more with it." So let's see now. Yeah, but that story earlier we were looking at about Al Jaffe, who's like 102 years old. That's pretty, man, that he's still alive and kicking. Can still talk about his time. I mean, just think about it. Dude's 102 years old. Well, that means in his lifetime, he's had a chance to meet, probably, again, where it only probably scratched the surface with just the two that were mentioned, Will Eisner and Stan Lee. I'm sure there's a lot more he probably worked with as well that just scratching the surface, or he's interacted with. It's one of those things where you might want to talk to him about like his interactions with these people over time. Just a lengthy career. His career in essence started when he was 20 back in so in total, like we were talking about earlier, that Al Jaffe's career, basically with Mad Magazine and his features in Mad Magazine, lasted for 55 years or across 6 decades. He started his entire cartooning comics career started back when he was 20 years old, that was 1941. So 1941 to 2019, that's 78 years right there. Let's see, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, across 8 decades there. 8 decades of work. That's pretty impressive, right? That's pretty impressive. To be able to write and draw comics for that long, that's amazing. Yeah, so let's see, where are we? We're at hour 9, so maybe hour 10. All right, so I'm just gonna give it a few more seconds here till it hits hour 10. Then we'll probably do the wrestling wrap up here. We do have a few things to kind of go over from that. Let's see. Do 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 do. All right, 1 hour 10 right there. Okay. So all right. So now we're gonna do the wrestling wrap up a bit here. So we got some news. Of course, you guys know we're just under 2 weeks away now from WrestleMania. There's still quite a bit of talk going on, and of course, there's also a lot of potential shakeup after WrestleMania 2, with the return of a number of stars, but also with the release of a few others. Let's see, but one of the big pieces of news coming out right now is they're still not sure if the Bray Wyatt Bobby Lashley match will still be going, as there's a couple of stories, and we've been talking about this the last few days, of course. There's been 2 stories out there. One is that Bray Wyatt is recovering from some undisclosed illness or injury. That's one thing being thrown out there. I think at one time they were saying there was a finger issue. But apparently the last couple of weeks they haven't really said a whole lot about the match. Not even sure if the match is still going to happen. There have been some people calling for maybe to start maybe moving Bobby Lashley into another program because of it. Another little rumor that's been kind of flying around is that apparently Wyatt may be unhappy with WWE Creative, and that may be leading to some issues as to whether or not matches on. Now, thus far, what we do know thus far, the matches that have been signed, of course, Roman Reigns will defend the WWE Universal titles against Cody Rhodes, who won the Royal Rumble this year. The women's title matches, both Raw and SmackDown women's titles will be on the line, as the SmackDown women's title will be, of course, current champion Charlotte Flair. She'll be defending against Rhea Ripley. And it's rumored that may be the main event for night one, even though a lot of fans would rather see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn taking on the Usos for the WWE Unified Tag Titles for night one, for the night one main event. It is confirmed that, of course, Cody and Roman will be facing off on night two, in the main event there. Now, the last few years since they have done WrestleMania for 2 nights, of course, they have tried to make it to where one night will have the men in the main event, the other night will be the women. So there's a lot of issues going on right there. Of course, the Raw Women's title will also be on the line at WrestleMania as Bianca Belair defends against Asuka, who they've basically been turning heel for this program. Also, I think it was just recently signed that Austin Theory will be defending the United States title against John Cena. You have Brock Lesnar signed to take on Almost, the Nigerian Nightmare, with MVP in his corner. I think it's already also been signed that Trish Stratus will be teaming with the women's tag team champions Lita and Becky Lynch to take on Damage Control of Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. Of course, Kai and Sky, the most recent former champions who Lita and Lynch defeated for the women's championships. Let's see. Let me see. Let's see. It's also been signed. Edge will be taking on Finn Balor in a Hell in a Cell. They were talking about last night how Edge was cut a pretty good promo, kind of reminiscing kind of his dark side. That was fully brought out in his match against The Undertaker years ago in Hell in a Cell. That's all the, let's see. Oh yeah, and then of course, a week from this Friday, so on the 31st, the day before the event itself, of course, the WWE is going to have Hall of Fame. Now, as previously announced, of course, Rey Mysterio Jr. and Great Muta will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. It was announced today that Andy Kaufman will be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, mind you, of course, Kaufman never worked for the WWE. But as some of you wrestling fans probably know, some of them like self, Kaufman was part of a very famous program that was worked out of Championship Wrestling in Memphis, out of the Continental Wrestling Association out of Memphis, Jerry Lawler's territory, in which Jimmy Hart had brought Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman was on Saturday Night Live, was doing a skit where he was the self-proclaimed intergender professional wrestling champion, world champion. Lawler as being professional wrestler, took exception to that. It, of course, eventually led to their very famous or infamous, depending upon what you feel about it, appearance on David Letterman, in which Kaufman threw coffee in Jerry Lawler's face. It was a work. They were actually good friends in real life, as we learned from the Man of the Moon movie back in 1999 with Jim Carrey starring Andy Kaufman. But, but it was still really one of the most famous wrestling programs. It really did help with the national, even though I think it happened in 82, 83, around there. So just prior to the WWE going national. But it did kind of lay the groundwork, you could say, for it to become a mainstream, for wrestling to become a mainstream thing. Let's see. So he's going to be, and on the AEW side of things, so Nia Jax, who last appeared with the WWE, one other WWE piece of news too came out today. So Goldberg's contract has expired with the WWE. He had already done all of his appearances, but the time on his contract, and apparently he didn't renew it. He felt they owed him a retirement match, still owed him a retirement match, but just never came to fruition. There is some speculation he might consider going to AEW. I don't see that likely, but yeah. So Goldberg's contract is up with the WWE now. Let's see. Now going back to AEW news for now, Nia Jax, we were just talking about, her last appearance with the WWE was at this year's Royal Rumble. There was some thought that some talk about her maybe re-signing with the WWE. That didn't happen. And she's been asked a lot if she would be interested in working with AEW. And she has claimed that, yes, she would be interested. She's, of course, good friends with Saraya, formerly known as Paige in the WWE. Also, would be a very interesting thing to see Nia Jax versus Nyla Rose, a couple kind of plus size women going at it there, a couple of power women, and I know even though Nia Jax has a negative reputation for being reckless in the ring or not unsafe in the ring, might be interesting to see how these two might go at it. So with that now, I think it's a good time to go over this. Oh wait, before I go there, let me do one last thing here, just to remind everybody what's on Dynamite tomorrow, and I can find it. What's going to be going down on Dynamite tomorrow, and then we will get to this day in each history. And of course, the roster of AEW is continuing to prepare for the Super Card of Honor, Ring of Honor people, the Ring of Honor group of people. But for tomorrow night, let's see, the main event we'll see Stokely Hathaway taking on Hook in a no DQ match. In a dream match, Kenny Omega takes on El Hijo del Vikingo, which basically translates to son of the Viking. The Guns will be defending the AEW World Tag Team Championships against Top Flight, the Martin Brothers. John Moxley takes on Stu Grayson of the Dark Order as Grayson looks to get revenge on Moxley for injuring his tag team partner, Evil Uno. Tony Storm, with Ruby Soho and Saraya in her corner, will be taking on Sky Blue as the Outcasts, they like to call themselves, will be trying to take out another one of AEW originals in the women's division. And then to open up the show, you have a 6-man tag match in which you have Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and the Icon Sting teaming up to take on the Blade and the Butcher and Kip Sabian. So, and we might very well see the Bunny and Penelope Ford in their corner. Be very interesting. We haven't seen either one of those ladies in a while. But with that, now with all that being said, of course, we'll get ready. We'll now focus on this day in each history. So today being March 21st, 2023, let's take a look back at this day in each history. History! All right. So first off, first thing we will look at here is on this date 20 years ago today, back in 2003, Walt Disney Pictures' Piglet's Big Movie made its United States premiere on this date back in 2003. So on this date back in 2003, Piglet's Big Movie from Walt Disney Pictures premiered in the United States theaters. This was, of course, about 5 days after its initial premiere, but it would make its full United States premiere on this date back in 2013, 10 years ago today. So with that, moving on. Also, 2013 is just so nice that we're gonna hit it twice. Actually, oh, I'm sorry. 2003 was the that was 20 years ago. But 2013, we do have a couple things for 2013. I'm sorry, I kind of got mixed up there a little bit. So we're going to move ahead to 2013, as we do have a couple items from 2013. 2013 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. Well, this first piece of news, of course, first piece of history, not so nice, but on this date in 2013, Bill Smithson, who would portray Moondog Spot in the early 90s as one half of the Moondogs of that particular era, would pass away at the age of 62. So now the Moondogs were originally, of course, Moondog King and Rex. They originally were created in the WWE by Sailor Ed White and Randy Colley, only for King to have visa issues with getting over the border from Canada back in the U.S. So they ended up having to replace Ed White, Moondog King, with Larry Booker, who would be known as Moondog Spot. So Rex and Spot would be, of course, hold the WWE titles on, I think, 2 or 3 occasions. And then Spot would later team up with Spike here, Bill Smithson, in the early 90s from 91 to 92 before he ultimately retired. And then Spike, Bill Smithson here would team with Larry King Jr. as Moondog Cujo. Larry King Jr., I believe, was also Cousin Jr. in the WWE, in the mid 80s as well. He would of course win the USWA World Tag Team titles on a number of occasions here, on multiple occasions. But on this date back in 10 years ago today, Bill Smithson would pass away at the age of 62. So there we go with that. And then 2013 is just so nice that we're gonna hit it twice. As also on this date in 2013, the first season of the anime of the 8-bit produced anime series Encouragement of Climb came to a conclusion on this date in 2013. So 10 years ago today, 8-bit produced anime, the first season of the 8-bit produced anime Encouragement of Climb would complete its first season on this date back in 2013. So I don't think they ever did an English adaptation. That's probably why none of us had probably ever heard of it. And finally, 5 years ago today, back in 2018, Its date in 2018. The 155th issue of Cable. And I was kind of, one of the other things I was surprised about was that this is still volume 1. And supposedly there's like 4 volumes of Cable, mind you. This was still volume 1, but between here at this point in time and now, there have been 4 volumes of Cable. So, but on this date back in 2018, 5 years ago today, the 155th issue of the first volume of Cable would go on go on sale on newsstands. From what I understand, this volume ran until issue 160. So coming down to the end, this was chapter 1 of the Past Fear story arc, which was written by Zach Thompson. Well, written by Zach Thompson and Lonnie Nadler. Art was done by Herman Peralta. Lettering done by Travis Lanham and Jesus Abertoff did the coloring. So on this date, back in 2018, 5 years ago today, the 155th issue of Cable went on sale today. So with that, guys, I do thank you for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the content. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Don't forget, of course, this Friday, Tim Olson will be joining me for our weekly historical comic retrospect as we continue our look back to comics that went on sale in September 1939. This week, focusing on Fox Feature Syndicate, reading from, of course, Wonder World Comics number 7 and Mystery Men Comics number 4. Reading over the features such as The Flame, Patio Day, Green Mask, Blue Beetle, and Zanzibar the Magician. With that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow for more Niche News. So until then, bye!